People think royal families forbid love because they are cold, because they are heartless, because they value power more than people. That is not the real reason. The truth is far more unsettling. Royal families don't fear love because it is weak. They fear it because it is powerful. Love makes people unpredictable. And unpredictability is the one thing a royal system cannot survive. From the outside, royalty looks like freedom. Inside, it is built on control, continuity, and calculation. And love threatens all three. Royal children are raised differently from the very beginning. They are not taught to explore who they are. They are taught to protect what they represent. Before they learn what they want, they learn what is expected. Before they learn how to love, they learn how to obey. Because in royal life, emotion is not private. It is political. Love creates loyalty to a person. Royal families require loyalty to the institution. And those two loyalties often collide. When someone loves deeply, they stop thinking only in terms of duty. They begin to ask dangerous questions. What if I choose differently? What if I walk away? What if I protect this person instead of the system? Royal families cannot afford those questions. This is why love is never openly forbidden. It is managed, redirected, delayed, contained. You are told, not now, later, when the time is right. And the time is rarely right. Arranged marriages are not about romance. They are about stability, about bloodlines that can be trusted, families that can be controlled, alliances that reduce risk. Love, on the other hand, introduces variables. Variables cannot be predicted. They cannot be negotiated. And they cannot be reversed easily. Royal families survive on continuity. They think in generations, not emotions. A single emotional decision can undo decades of planning. That is why love is treated like a liability. When a royal heir falls in love freely, it creates fear. Fear that they will prioritize happiness over responsibility. Fear that they will choose a person over a position. Fear that they will break the pattern. And patterns are sacred in royal life. This is why royal love stories often end in silence. Not because love disappears, but because it must be hidden. Hidden to protect the image. Hidden to protect stability. Hidden to prevent questions. Royal families don't destroy love. They suffocate it slowly. They surround it with pressure, with expectation, with consequences, until love either adapts or leaves. People ask why royal marriages look distant. Why affection feels formal. Why romance feels absent. It is because those marriages are not built on desire. They are built on alignment. Compatibility is measured in reputation, not emotion. Love does not fit neatly into that structure. Love demands presence, time, risk, and risk is unacceptable when your life affects millions. Royal heirs are taught that love makes you vulnerable, and vulnerability makes you controllable. So they are trained to guard their hearts as carefully as their public image. When love does appear, it often arrives early, before responsibility fully settles in, before the crown becomes heavy. Those early loves are remembered quietly, carried privately, and rarely allowed to continue. This is why so many royal love stories exist only in poetry, in silence, in memory, because poetry is the only place love can exist without consequences. Royal families never allow love to lead. They allow it only to follow. If it follows safely, and if it doesn't, it is asked to step aside. This is not cruelty. It is fear disguised as tradition. Fear that love will loosen control. Fear that emotion will disrupt order. Fear that humanity will overpower legacy. Royal life teaches this above all else. You can have affection, but not attachment. You can have companionship, but not dependence. This is why so many royal figures appear distant. Why their smiles feel practiced. Why their personal lives remain hidden. They are not hiding happiness. They are protecting structure. Love does not disappear in royal families. It transforms into duty, into memory, into silence, and sometimes into regret. So when you ask why royal families never allow love, the answer is not that they don't believe in it. They believe in it too much. They know exactly what love can do. And that is why they never let it decide. Because a crown can survive power struggles, can survive scandals, can survive criticism, but it cannot survive a heart that chooses freely. That is the royal truth. And it is the reason love is always the first thing asked to wait, and the last thing ever allowed to lead. Royal families understand something very early that most people learn too late. Love changes priorities, and priorities shape decisions. A royal heir who loves deeply stops seeing the world only through strategy. They begin to see faces instead of positions, consequences instead of convenience, loss instead of victory. That shift is dangerous, because a system built on power cannot function when emotion starts leading it. This is why royal families don't say, "You are not allowed to love." They say something far more convincing. They say, "You will understand later." Later becomes the excuse for postponement. Later becomes the graveyard of desire. And by the time later arrives, love has either faded or learned how to survive in silence. Royal heirs are taught to compartmentalize. Duty in one room, emotion in another, love locked somewhere in between. They learn how to switch off parts of themselves depending on who is watching. That ability looks impressive. It is praised as maturity, but it comes at a cost. Because when you learn to turn feelings off, you also forget how to turn them fully back on. Love, when controlled for too long, becomes painful. Not dramatic pain, not visible pain, a dull, constant ache. The kind that follows you into quiet moments, into sleepless nights, into smiles that don't quite reach the eyes. Royal families prefer arranged unions because they reduce uncertainty. Both sides know the rules. Both sides understand the expectations. Both sides protect the image. Romance is optional. Stability is not. Love marriages, on the other hand, bring unknowns. Unknown loyalty, unknown influence, unknown consequences. And unknowns are threats. When a royal heir insists on love, it creates fear in the family. Fear that the crown will become secondary. Fear that the institution will be questioned. Fear that tradition will be weakened. That fear does not always turn into resistance. Sometimes it turns into quiet pressure. Pressure to reconsider. Pressure to wait. Pressure to think about the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is always large enough to erase one heart. What makes this especially painful is that royal families often believe they are doing the right thing. They believe they are protecting their children, protecting the future, protecting the nation. They don't see themselves as destroyers of love. They see themselves as guardians of stability. And yet, the emotional cost is always paid by the individual. By the one asked to choose legacy over longing. By the one expected to be strong without support. By the one told that personal happiness is a luxury they can't afford. This is why so many royal figures seem distant. They are not cold. They are trained. Trained to suppress. Trained to endure. Trained to prioritize duty over desire. Love does not disappear in these environments. It adapts. It becomes poetry instead of presence, memory instead of touch, silence instead of confession. Survives, but it does not thrive. Some royal heirs carry one love their entire lives. Not publicly, not proudly, quietly. They move forward, marry, build families, fulfill roles. But somewhere inside, there is a version of life they never lived. And that knowledge never fully fades. This is the part the world rarely understands. Royal families don't prevent love because they lack emotion. They prevent it because love gives people something worth risking everything for. And power cannot afford that risk. So love is delayed, redirected, contained, until it no longer threatens the structure, or until it leaves. And when people ask why royal marriages look distant, why affection feels formal, why intimacy seems absent, the answer is simple. Those marriages were designed to survive history, not to satisfy the heart. Royal families never allow love to lead. They allow it only if it follows rules, timing, and permission. And if it refuses, it is asked to disappear. This is not a tragedy. It is a system. One that has survived centuries by choosing continuity over connection. But systems have blind spots. And the blind spot of royalty is this. A heart that is denied too long does not disappear. It hardens. Or it breaks. And that is the silent cost of crowns. Not visible in ceremonies. Not written in history books. But carried quietly by those who were never allowed to choose freely. So when you wonder why royal families never allow love, remember this. They don't fear love because it is weak. They fear it because it reminds people that power means nothing if you cannot choose who you love. And that truth, more than any rebellion, is what truly threatens a crown.